I'm live. Hey y'all, sorry I'm late. Again, I'm late, of course. You know, I'll be late to my funeral, as they say. But good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to the Southern Gent Presents Here I Am. Yes, that's right. I am on season 2 of the Southern Gent. When embarking upon season 2, I was reminded of what took place in season 1 and the feedback that I received from many of you. I want to personally thank each of you that reached out to say how much something that you heard touched your heart, made you feel like you're not the only one going through a situation, and those of you that said how much you needed a laugh. My heart, it brought joy to my heart to know that something I did was appreciated by someone else. Is really why I wanted to do Here I Am, and to give you an extra element into who Eddie is. Each show will bring you closer to me. I'm bringing you some of my deepest and darkest insecurities, and also some of my most inspirational aha moments. Each and every one of my guests was handpicked based upon their inspiration to me. For this season, I'm adding an extra element of a live feature. So for the season premiere, I'm bringing you 2 special guests. These special guests are really important to me because they were my introduction into podcasting. I don't know how many of you know, but I was 1/3 of them Southern boys before there was a Southern Gent. My guests today are none other than David Armstead and Obie McNair. Hello,
Oh man.
gentlemen.
Oh, this
Hey,
is
hey,
fun.
hey,
It's
This
a reunion all over again.
hey.
It's a reunion. I can't sing.
Hey,
Don't charge me for that
That's a,
Facebook. So
we do not own the
much.
rights.
It means so much for me to have you both on the Southern Gent. And Dave, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was scared shitless when you asked me to be on them Southern Boys. I was afraid that people wouldn't care what the fuck I had to say. And what happens if I say something wrong? OMG, David. Can you tell us what was your motivation behind wanting to do them Southern Boys?
I think for me it was being just engulfed in social media, trying to get as much information that I could get, um, and then really trying to find a voice that sounded like mine. Being black, being gay, being from the South, I didn't get that. I didn't hear that. I didn't see that. So at this point, I was kind of at the mindset of like, if you want it, create it. So I was like, I'll just make my own. And literally, I went to Facebook, and when I had the idea, I remember you posting something about wanting to be a part of a podcast or something of that nature. And I was like, Eddie. I literally messaged you. I said, Eddie, let's do it. And from that, just the idea birth of that. And I was like, who else do we need on the show? And I was like, of course, my best friend Obie from Jackson. So I was like, this is just like perfect. So that's kind of where I got it from.
Awesome. So I was scared, Obie. What when David reached out to you? How did you feel?
I was ready. We have to remember, right? Leading up to that point, I had become a huge podcast lover. I mean, I was listening to The Read. I was listening to Still Processing by the New York Times. I mean, I had literally a weekly, like, I listened to these podcasts on a weekly basis, and I always thought to myself, this would be so much fun to do. And so literally David was just like, I want to start a podcast. I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm ready. No questions about it. You got me. Let's go. What we're talking about. And then he said, pop culture and health. And I was like, this is me. Like, this is me all day. So I was excited for it. I think the only thing I was nervous about was just like if we would have the sustainability to keep it going for a longer time, which is really the hard thing you learn in podcasting once you start. It's just being able to do it over and over, and consistency. It's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that we talked about with us being from the South. We're living in the South and working in public health it was difficult because we had jobs, we had lives. I know that Obie, you were working like a million jobs.
Yes. You had that part-time job at the restaurant. You were working
did.
at the CBO. Yes, you were working at.
I did, and the sad part about it was like when I did the second job, I did not anticipate like how much of my life, my additional free time would be taken up by that part-time job. And then I guess, you know, what I loved about a threesome, well, not a threesome, well,
yeah.
about a trio was that if one person couldn't make it, there was still two of them who could kind of keep the ball rolling to where I think one episode actually happened to where like I had something that I couldn't make it, but you guys still were able to go do the show and keep it producing. So that was the thing I was about us having a trio, because I've seen when it's just two people, it's like it gets real awkward when it's just one person on the mic and he's just talking.
Yeah, it does. So we had a lot of stuff that we discussed, like what you're not gonna do. What
you're not gonna do.
What was the other segment? We had a public health segment. We had pop culture. What you not gonna do? And it was one more.
First of all. So when I really thought about this podcast, I wanted it to be fun and educational, but still have a pop culture element of it, still catchy for people to understand it, have some real knowledge that people could grasp. And it was just like these fun things that kind of like, I guess was the saying at the times of like, first of all. So it's like we started each episode with each person having a first of all, and then we ended it by saying what you not gonna do. And I thought it was just really cool that we did that. And it just made it fun. And it was cool that we all had public health backgrounds. So when we talked about those topics, we kind of knew what to go to in depth and like who could we actually use as resources and different links to things. Like it just really worked out really well for us, but didn't work out really well for us. Like we didn't have any bad blood. It wasn't any like issues amongst us. It was just time and technology, to be very honest.
Time and technology, the two T's.
The two T's outside of Tatas.
But I will say this. I mean, I'm happy to see that out of what we started came this. Like this is, the continuation of what we wanted to do. And so I'm glad to see that all that work wasn't for nothing. Like, yes, this was the foundation, but out of it came something beautiful, which is the Southern Gent. And it's kind of like, okay, he's continuing to keep what we started. And I'm also just glad to be back. Like, at least for one night only, as Effie says,
Like, I am incredibly proud of you, Eddie. This is like I saw this and I was like, this is just incredible. So like for you to be going into your second season and asking me to be a guest, I was like, oh, okay, sure. Let me put some beard oil in real quick.
I cannot tell y'all how many messages I got to say like, who's that on your show? And I was like, if you holla. Don't be coming through. Chill out.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all already know if you see a dark skinned guy with his shirt open 99 times out of 100, it's probably David.
But you gotta say
it's your trademark. It's because it's your trademark.
Okay, I'm gonna be buttoned up all episodes.
Listen, give the people what they want. Give them what they want. They want.
I'm gonna be a nut. I'm gonna be a nut from Zara. That's what I'm gonna do.
So on them Southern Boys, we had a lot of topics that we talked about, from mental health to sex positivity to the latest tea and gossip in the world. A question for you both: why was it so important to have such a broad range of topics?
I think especially, David, as David said, it was a show that was supposed to be for, to highlight the lives of Black, gay men from the South. And I think it's very important that people understand that we're not one-dimensional. Like, I think sometimes media will portray us to look one certain way. And it's like, but we're not that. We are all multifaceted. We all have different, ideas and thoughts about the world. And I think it was important that we should exemplify, even amongst the three of us, there were things that we agreed upon and we kind of saw similarly, but there were also things that we saw differently. And it was good to see the various ideas and and thoughts that we presented each week, come out in our conversations. And so I think that was, I felt like that was an important reason to have a myriad of topics because, I knew there were things that I liked that David maybe not like, but Eddie might have had a thought on, and David is David's photography guru. I can't tell you nothing about photography, but David, he's going to run off at the mouth and tell you angles and lighting and everything.
Yeah. And I just thought it was like, for me, it was like, I don't want to sit down and listen to CNN all day long. And I also don't want to sit down and watch Bravo all day long. So I felt like the show was a perfect blend of the two, of like you're getting really good knowledge, really good resources and information about things that's going on in the world around us. And also just with public health, because that was our background, like we said. But also, like, I like Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I can't wait for season 13. Like, I want to know if he's coming back. But I'm also sitting here like, how many days we got left till we got to vote? Like, what's going on with the Postal Service? Those are the kind of things that, like, in my head is what's going on. So I know if it's not just me. So it was really cool to have those topics so you could actually sit down and have a time where you can get both.
So let's dive into some of the real discussion.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God.
I'm so nervous.
Don't be scared.
So nervous.
So one piece of advice that I was taught at an early age was to always remain a learner. Obie, I want to know, what is one word of advice that you've gotten that you still use today?
Oh gosh, this is what? Now you're gonna make me sit here. Actually, have to go back in my mind, and I feel like you remember the episode of SpongeBob where he went into his mind. You see him like going through all the drawers and like trying to pull out one back. I feel like that's what my little Obie's doing now. He's like, what's one? Okay, so one thing that I learned as a child that I still hold on to. I think, I think one thing that I will say that I've learned, I think that I take with me is that you can always go home. So I'm from Mississippi, and I think being Black and gay in Mississippi is a very interesting experience. It's okay. It's not, it's not Atlanta, it's not DC, it's not Philly, Chicago. And sometimes you kind of look at things, you say, and I know for me, like before I moved away, so I now live in Baltimore, but I've always was like, I gotta get out of Mississippi. I just gotta get out. There's nothing for me here. Everything for me is somewhere else. And now living in Baltimore, I kind of like, yeah, it's great not living in Mississippi, but I can always go home. And on top of that, though, like I just think, my family always reinforced the importance of family. Like, yes, everything could be going wrong. Everything, we might disagree on so many things, but we always love you, and you will always have a base here to where if you need to just come back, reshuffle the deck, and play again, like you have a safe space to do that. And so, I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that like I don't necessarily need the big cities of DC or Atlanta. Like I could do fine at home, or I could do fine in a smaller area. So I would say, yeah, that you can always go home. That's something that I've really grown to appreciate that my mom always taught me.
I love that because
I like that.
With us being from those states that people are always kind of shunning us for, I think
Every day
to know that we can always go home and always have that spades partner, just like you said, because I always play spades. But it's really instrumental to know that because so many of us didn't have that.
Right.
We had it, but so many people did not. So I think that's
right.
So David, what is one piece of advice that someone gave you that still gives you like a hallelujah moment?
My mom has always instilled in me so she would say, always be the good guy, always be the nice guy. And then as I got older, she was like, always remain a gentleman. So I kind of took that in my mind as like, and if anybody knows like my personal handles to any like social media sites, it's Good Dude 87 because I try to strive to be a good guy, no matter how bad the situations are, no matter how much I've been hurt or how much trauma I have, I try to remain the good guy and the gentleman in all situations that I can be in. Because I think at the end of the day, we've lost niceness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like people now kind of get caught up in like all the worrying and all the issues and the problems, to where it's like we don't even think about what's going on in other people's lives. So we don't know what's actually going on with anyone outside of ourselves. And we lose the piece of being nice to people when we just get caught up in the negativity. So I think for me, it's like, even now with like COVID and unemployment and all this other stuff going on in the world, it's like someone has it worse than me. So I have to remain a gentleman and a good guy.
It's almost like society today praises the negativity. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see videos of people yelling at workers, you know, or fight videos that started between employee and customer, or, you know, and to David's point, like, right, regular people. It's like, but to David's point though, this notion of I forget that, you know, in this moment you are a human too. And you know, I'm just mad that I didn't get what I wanted in this moment, and I'm gonna just lash out on you, totally forgetting that you're human too. And just like when you're on the job, you've had days where, you know, you need some courtesy extended to you. Why can't you extend it to other people? So I love that.
How did you move to that place?
It's you know, it was really difficult because I've had a lot of bad things happen to me in my life, you know? And so like things where I feel like I should still have some bitterness and some anger toward things that have happened in my life. But it's like, what good is that going to do if I hold on to that?
Absolutely.
Like, outside of stress me out, which causes all type of other internal and physical and mental, spiritual stress and trauma that I don't need. So I think we have to remember, like, with things that are not in our control, you have to let it go. Like you can't hold on to it. And then also holding on to personal grudges was something I had an issue with, but it was like, I'm mad at you and you don't even know why we mad at each other. So really, I'm the one that's stressing out because you live in your best life. So it was a lot of things and people and situations that I had to just literally let go. And once you're able to let things like that go and you realize how small things are, you're able to look at other people and realize and see their humanity and realize, David, it's not about you in this moment. Be a good guy.
I love it. So I believe that so many people have like poured into my life and made me who I am today. Those people have left little trinkets over time. I call those trinkets like my values and my beliefs of who I am and who I want to be. What are the values that you hold near and dear to your heart, Obie?
Wow, I always gotta start. Let David start once. Jesus. Okay. Let's see. So when I think about the values I have, I kind of go in order of the women and people and men in my life. My grandmother taught me to always have faith. I would say she taught me faith. I always believe in I always believe in the power of a praying grandmother. I think we all grew up hearing about a praying Black grandmother, and I had one. So I definitely believe in the power of faith. My mom has always taught me the power of curiosity, to always be, kind of to something you said earlier, Eddie, always be willing to learn or find out more about something in the world. My father always taught me the power of seeking wisdom, to always look for things and power. My little sister taught me the power of bravery. The day she was born, and she's my little sister, so the day she was born, I made a commitment that I will always defend her. I will always protect her. David even has taught. I would say David has taught me the power of true friendship. I think for him to come into my life in 2016, it was. I don't think at the time I had a local close friend like that. I think most of it, the only few friends I had were usually kind of far out. We had met through like conferences, or we maybe met at like a summer thing. But I didn't necessarily have like a local friend that it was just like when I needed to get away, he'd be like, just come to New Orleans. Just come crash on my couch. You're gonna be all right. So I learned friendship from him, and I can go on and on about values. I think to your point, Eddie, like so many people have poured into me and left those things. I mean, I could go on for days about who has poured into me, but I would say those are some of the big ones and some of the big people that have poured into me.
Great. What about you, David?
So I'm not gonna do a list like Obie, not because I don't have one, but because I think one thing that I've taken from people in my life that I've seen constantly, that's something that I have to always remind myself, is peace. And peace comes and looks in very different shapes, forms, and fashions. And it's very different for each individual person. So when you see someone living in their true peace, in their own individuality, like you kind of can't do anything but sit back and be in awe. Like I've said this, I think I don't want to sound like wrong. I don't want this to sound bad, but the feminine men in the gay community have taught me more about living in your truth.
Amen.
And being unashamed and unapologetic and could give two fucks about how you feel about me. I'm going to live how I live. And when you see that, you just gotta be like, damn.
Yeah.
Because it's just a beautiful thing when you see people living in their true truth and you see their peace. Yes. So I think that's one thing I've learned from a lot of people is peace.
Peace. So one of the biggest things that I have learned too is authenticity, just right along the lines of that, because I've always struggled with the imposter syndrome. And so now we have
going through that now. I'm not in this program, but that's a whole nother conversation.
We'll have part 2 of this episode for that. But I also have learned a lot of compassion and service to others. So that has been the continuing theme from when I was younger. So tell me, how do you envision the next phase of your life based on those values, David?
You know, honestly, I think coming into the year in January and February, I was really laser focused on David and how I was going to, one, protect my peace, because I was just coming out of a horrible depression, a horrible place 3 months before that, up until January 1. And I just told myself I'm living this peace. I got to focus on this. And then Miss Corona came around and decided to change some things up. So I think how I view my peace and how I give grace, is how I envision these next coming years of my life. Because everything that I want to do in my life has to bring me peace.
Okay.
So I have to focus on that, and I have to give grace to everyone around me that may not be valuable to my peace. So you may not be good for me, but I still wish you well. I still give you grace and mercy on whatever you do, but you can't do it here. So I still focus on my peace and give grace to everyone else around me. That's where I'm at.
Hey, that is so funny because I am literally going through that at the moment. Several people who, may have been friends at one point, should have been friends. I mean, and it's like my peace is worth
way more
than any of that. So
yes.
I get that. What about you? Yes. What about your next phase of life?
I think I'm at so similar to y'all, I'm at that phase where I'm really at the point of just slicing and dicing people. No tea, no shade. It's just, I'm at a place where I see where I'm going, and I know that if you are either A, not going there with me, or B, not supporting me along the journey, then you can politely step to the side and sit and stand in the background. Like you don't even need to be on next to the row. I need the people who are supporting, clapping, and all that stuff. You need there, so you can go to the background. But also, I think I feel like I'm at the I think I'm starting to kind of get to the culmination of all of what I've wanted coming into reality. So I've kind of looked at like my last few lives, and I looked at like where I am today, and you know, I'm on this PhD journey. I'm to finish up this last degree, and I do mean last degree. But that's gonna get me set up for my career. I have met someone, and we are doing really, really good. So that kind of that whole romance, love thing, life is kind of going. And then I have like an amazing group of friends. Like I've really been able to kind of get down like who are the people who are there for me and keep me motivated and support me. And I just kind of feel like we're all gonna come to this like apex where it's like the golden path is gonna be before me, and all my life is gonna be just smooth, to the best of my ability, smooth sailing. But yeah, so I think that's where I am in life. So
Eddie, all I heard was Shantae's got a man at home. That's all I heard.
Hold on.
I don't know
That's all I heard.
No.
Shantae's got a man at home.
Let me say this.
And he's been good to me.
All I'm gonna say, Eddie, is I'm not gonna air people's business out on this live. So that's all I'm gonna say. Like,
that's fine.
Because I'm not the only one that's.
Listen, I'm on the call at a remote location in a city that's not mine.
I cannot wait to be a bridesmaid.
Come on, bridesmaids.
I'm ready. So another aspect that I wanted to bring to Here I Am is embracing my own vulnerability.
Oh God!
Merriam-Webster defines vulnerable as the capability of being physically or emotionally wounded, exposed, open, sensitive. And my fave, Kelly Rowland, said that being vulnerable is being real. And I don't know about y'all, but being vulnerable has truly been a difficult journey for me over the past 12 years or so. I used to find it hard to just release and let myself be free. So from my childhood, we were always told, men don't cry, or it was that hyper masculine bullshit that we always hear that can make it hard for Black, same gender loving men to be vulnerable with ourselves as well as with our partners. So I decided to break that mold, and last week I just let it rip. I turned on some good music. I don't like crying, but I burned my sage and the tears just started to flow. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry. I was more appreciative for so much. And it was a gratefulness that really brought me tears. I'm interested to know, when and why was it the last time that you cried?
She wants ratings. You see, she wants ratings. That's why she tried to go for this Oprah moment. She wants some ratings.
All right, I'm gonna give you two. One is gonna kind of be vague, but still have some value. I think very recently, I cried over a situation that I thought was going to be something way more than it's not. So having to let go of that image in your mind was really hard for me. So like I broke down. But the last good cry I had was actually in 2018 when my grandmother passed away. She passed away. Her funeral was the weekend of MLK weekend, where a lot of my friends was up in Atlanta for a conference, and I was at a funeral. What people don't know is my grandmother meant the world to me. Before that, she had some really bad health problems, and I literally was by her side, me, her, and my grandpa, every day for 6 months. I think I went to work, went to her house, then I went to my apartment and went to sleep, and kind of just repeated the cycle. And through that time, we had very small conversations, alone, where out of the blue was like, live your life, baby. And I knew exactly what that meant. And I got lost going to her graveside because it was like 30 minutes outside of the city. So I ended up at the graveside alone. And I was able to have that moment with her. And I literally just like bawled everything out, like had full on conversations and like cried and released and let go of a lot of family pain and hurt. And that was a good cry. It's a good cry.
Those are moments of healing that are awesome, because I remember listening to Cranes in the Sky, like not too long after my dad passed, and I could not find his grave for nothing in my life. I called my mom, she couldn't direct me, called my aunt, she couldn't direct me, and I was just angry. And so then I stopped and I said, at the time, I was a big church queen. I was like, Lord, go. And I turned around and there it was, and I just started weeping. So that was probably the biggest cry we had, even at his funeral. So yeah, I get those moments. Get those.
Yeah.
What about you, Obie? Who owes you some tissue money for?
So I mean, as far as like shed a tear or two, that was actually today. I ended up listening to Vicky Winans "Safe in His Arms," and when you think about your life and you think about some of the things that you've been in, the places that you've been in that may or may not have come out on this end, you can relate to being, right, but you can relate to being safe in his arms. But actually, the real cry was probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
So like most Black gay men, the relationship we have with our fathers are usually ones that are kind of off or strained. And while my father's always been in my life, I think in more recent years, we've kind of struggled more so, especially when I came out to him and told him about, my life and things like that. And so one day while I was up here, he calls me and, he's upset because apparently him and my little sister got into it over me. Apparently some statements were made that just kind of ruffled his feathers a little bit. And so he called me just kind of emotional about, our relationship. But prior to this now, and some people don't know this. I know I told David about this. Back in the fall, my father was diagnosed with cancer. And so, and then at that time it was not looking as good. And so of course, at nowhere in my life did I think that at the age of 30, that I was going to potentially lose my dad. And so I had talked to my life coach one day. I was saying, I'm going home, and she had gave me the assignment of learn your father as Obie, not as your dad, but learn him as just a guy. And so when I came home in June, I sat down. Me and went to dinner, and we sat down, and we talked, and I learned so much about my dad and who he was, and not only who he was, but how he was raised and how his being became influence into my life. And so what I told him, I said, as much as I know that we are still building and still trying to mend this relationship, and whatnot, I want you to know that we are good. Like, you and I are in a great place. I know that it may not be perfect. There are still some things that I know that we're still butting heads on, but I'm also at a place now where I'm willing, as David says, to let it go and not harp on it, as long as I know that you're in my life. And not only are you in my life, but I also just want to make sure that you respect the person that I bring into this space, and that you also love my grandkids, the kids that I give you. That's all I really care about at this moment in my life. We don't have to be super close, but at least respect the man that I fall in love with, and that I also choose to raise these kids with and love them, because they didn't ask for. All they wanted was a grandfather who loves them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but through all of that, my tears were just running.
Running like
I'm surprised. I'm really glad I was able to hold it together here, because I was really ready to Candace, I dip a couple of times. In Candace Potomac house and fashion,
I think that's that's so that's real cool, because just like you, I had to understand who Eddie was, because everybody knows my real name is Edward. So that's also my father's first name. So I had to
I'm in the boat with you.
not deny, but I had to decide, who am I as a person? And so once somebody called me Eddie, I was like, don't call me that shit. It was Mackenzie. I was like, don't call me that shit. My name is Edward. And so after that, it was like, now I have the identity. I don't know if y'all know about Janet, but she had that Janet with the period at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me. It was really learning who the hell I was out of my daddy's image, because everybody knew me as Lil Ed. So it was like,
yeah. And I think for me, the other big thing was just, I think so often when we look at our lives and we see the problems, we always highlight the negative aspect, and we always are quick to be like, oh, this is what you did. Like, you gave this to me. You weren't this. And it was amazing in that moment to understand that while I took it as a bad thing, my father only saw it because it's all he knew. Like, the way he raised me was all he knew. Whereas I saw it just like, oh my gosh, like, it's so detrimental. You wasn't there. You didn't come you wasn't at home when mom was at home. You were working, da 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 da. And it was like, no, but that's because his father was like that. Or when I'm a teenager, he wants to, let's hang out, let's do this, da da da, and let's, blah blah blah. And I'm like, Dad, I ain't gonna hang out with you. It's because he lost his father technically, because his father had a stroke at 15. He was 15 when his father had a stroke.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm talking about, like, you don't talk, you can't really do anything. He's literally just at home, 15 years old. So a lot of his teenage early years, he didn't get to have those bonding moments with his dad. But so he's trying to make up for that in me. And had I known that, I might have been more open to engaging with him. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, so then you start thinking about, damn, all these years I missed on bonding time, because I just thought that I was just holding a grudge, against how you were when I was a preteen.
Ooh, that's deep. So before today's live, I asked you both to complete this statement in regards to your next cycle. That could be your next calendar year, your next phase of life. If you're like me, you call it an era. Either way, the prompt was, the next phase of my life, I commit to. So for me, I will commit to being real and intentional with myself. David, what do you commit to doing in this next era of life?
In this next era of life, I like how you put that. I commit to saying yes to David and living in my truth. Like, just not giving a fuck anymore. Like, I've gotten to a place where, like, I was so censored, I was so careful about what I would say, how I would say it, how I would, and now it's just gotten to a point now, in order to protect my peace, I have to get that shit out. And how it comes out, it comes out. Y'all just have to take it. So I think that's where I'm at now. It's like, I gotta get that shit out.
There we go. What about you, Obie? What do you commit?
In this phase, so the next phase of my life, which it's funny. When I started going back, kind of after you said that, I started looking at my life and be like, what would I call these? Like, what this phase was in my life? And I haven't come up with a name for this phase yet. But what I can commit myself to is, number one, living authentically. I'm no longer living for my parents' namesake or for anybody else's namesake. I'm living for me. Like what are the things that make me happy and whatnot. I commit to loving hard. I guess I try to make it round, but that was a fail. Love hard, whether it's a person, my friends. I just want to truly send love, and then laughing heftily. I think I learned the value of laughter in a world where everything is so serious and so stressed out. Sometimes you just need to laugh. And I know people who can truly bring a laugh out of me, and I'm going to now laugh a lot more and release those endorphins and keep positive spirits around me.
Yes, I love it. Enveloping yourself in light and love.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, again, I want to really thank y'all for being on here. It
This was fun.
Amazing sharing this space with y'all.
This was so good.
I'm literally leaving way more inspired than when I started. I'm so I feel so inspired. Thanks, y'all.
We love you, Eddie. Continue to be great, to be awesome. The Southern Gent is going to explode even more. I can't wait to see what all comes from this. I'm so proud.
Absolutely.
That's my friend.
No, the thing.
I can't wait till we get invited to the Met Gala.
Listen, I echo it all, and it's just nice to know that I was just a microcosm step on the world. No, realize it's just like it was a small step, but to be able to propel Eddie to my thing is if I can anyway lift my brother up to another height, I say let's go for it, and I'm just glad.
Yes, I love it. Thanks, y'all, so much.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
And I want to thank y'all, the viewers out there, for tuning in. Don't forget, I'll be bringing you a new episode every other week on Tuesdays around 7-ish on here, on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever you find me at. Next month is Self-Care Awareness Month, and for the next episode, I'm bringing you Aisha Moore, the self-care queen herself. Check me out, and don't forget to subscribe to Ed Wiley 06 on YouTube so I can change my damn URL. For those of you that paid attention to my Facebook earlier today, I'm going to give you my little verse to a remix of Pussy Talk by City Girls and Doja Cat. Are y'all ready? I'm nervous. This is my first premiere for the rap. Let me bring David over here. This is going to be so funny. Y'all ready?
Because I'm excited.
This is going to be it. All right, let me put my phone down. Let me hear.
Okay, wait. Let me start it. Can you hear it?
Hey, man. Come here. Come, let me give you an earful. Trying to get this back broke. And my hair pulled. Let me on my back. All over me. This shit is something that can never be forced. So don't stare, come fast. Want you to beat it up. Fuck my flat ass. Do what you want. Don't make me squeal. Stop playing. I'm for real. Shit, yeah, I got some hoes. Just ask your man. He already know. He'll touch your listen to some talk. He gonna buy a diamond. You don't want these problems. You don't want to smoke. Wanna give a pizza. Trying to make a choke, Eddie.
Listen, I'm trying to be a rapper.
Just take my money. Take it all. I stand, Eddie. I'm here for all of it. I love it.
So, tell everybody bye, y'all.
Thank y'all.
Bye, guys.